What is up, y'all? Austin Blankenship coming at you again with Rack City MTG. Coming at you with a fresh deck list today. We've done a couple things differently. As you'll notice, we have the Nurturing Peatlands and over the Castle Locthwains. Castle Locthwains are coming in tapped way too often because of our increase in non-swamp lands. So we're going to try this so we make sure we always have untapped black. We are going to try some Dismembers. The Bloodchief's Thirst stock has gone down in this meta. There's a lot of chunkier, bigger creatures, and a lot of recursive value creatures. There's been a lot of hollow ones, things like that. People are trying the new graveyardy type decks that don't actually use the graveyard much. So they're coming at. There's a lot more 4 toughness, 5 toughness creatures that coincidentally get hit by Dismember. This was always kind of rough for a good period of time because you didn't really want it to kill their 1-mana creatures, because usually that was against aggressive decks, and the biggest creatures in the format, like Primeval Titan, kind of just ignored it, but we're probably in a spot right now. Affinity has a lot of 4 toughness creatures. It's rising back in popularity. Gives us an instant speedway. Heliod Company's still running around. Since the printing of Urza Saga, we've gone from a pretty unfavorable Heliod matchup where the past 3 in a row I've been able to beat them. They've all been close. They've all been 2-1s. Noticed in the sideboard, they're one of the, I don't know if I mentioned it, the Miser's Bantu's Last Reckoning. Like I said, there's a lot of swarmy creature decks that get on the battlefield very fast. It's nice to have at least one main deck out. I'm considering going up to 2. Notice in the sideboard, finally Sedgemoor Witch is gone. There's been enough playtesting that the card might not be bad in certain metas. In this meta, it is very, very bad. Rotting Regisaur looks a lot better. Harder to Fatal Push. Doesn't die to 1 lightning bolt. Takes 2 bolts. Generates some card advantage on its own, and it's a much faster clock than a Sedgemoor Witch. 1 more Pithing Needle, and there's 1 in the main deck, and you'll notice that there's going to be no Hex Parasite this league. It does some cute things. We're going to revisit it as a sideboard piece, but for now, it never did anything to make me think that it is a need, especially not when we have the transformational sideboard plan of bringing in these giant beaters. 1 surgical extraction. I'm actually going to take down a ley line here really quick and go up 1, or let's get rid of this Blood Chief's Thirst for 1 more surgical extraction, because the surgicals are significantly better against the graveyard decks that are going around right now. So we will go up 1 more. If we keep running into those sort of graveyard decks and not Dredge, where they only use their graveyard as a resource, we'll be going up to 4 of those and maybe possibly even cutting the ley line, which is something I haven't done in a long, long time. But there's not been really much of any Dredge going around. You'll notice all 4 copies of Bantu's Last Reckoning are in the 75, because there are matchups where if we don't wipe the board every 2 turns, we probably just lose. Like I said, another Pithing Needle in the 75. This is because we have no main deck way really to answer Planeswalkers outside of the one we already have. It's also nice to have 2 different options. If one gets removed, you can tutor the other one. There's just so many matchups where it's really relevant to have this card. We're trying Break the Ice 1 more time. The 1 time we've cast it, it won us the game. So I'm going to give it 1 more shot. Just know that almost 90% certainty Damping Spheres are better in this slot. And there's too many. Damping Sphere does too much against too many or too wide of a variety of decks, and this really only hates on Tron lands. With that said, I had a very rough league off camera last night where I tried something different, and it's actually not showing up right now, but it was my first 2-3 in a while. But I wanted to play test trying the play all league, and I think that we would have been at least 3-2, would have had a chance to be 4-1 had we been blinding in the draw. So we will be doing that again this game. With our specific build of 8 rack with Smallpox, we play much better on the draw. We catch back up so quickly, and just having the density of card advantage has been a little bit more relevant than I thought it would be. Turn 1 Thoughtseize is not as important. or, well, specifically turn 1 Thoughtseize before your opponent gets a turn is not as important. The types of decks we've been losing to have been Hollow One decks, which we have a really hard matchup against. Like I said, there's really no way. Leyline of the Voids don't really stop what they're doing much. I'm going to shut up now, and I'm just going to queue up into this. But there's some different sorts of... So take the draw. There's some different sorts of like Crashing Footfalls, Shardless Agent decks that are pretty good against us as well. You know, this hand looks like a pretty easy keep. We'll probably try to sequence it a way that we don't have to cast the Smallpox on turn 2. Okay, so specifically the deck that I said we haven't seen this deck in like 5 or 6 leagues, that's the one that's here. So we will be casting Smallpox on turn 2. That's perfectly okay. If we can take another creature here. This not being a Thoughtseize really hurts us because Vapor Snag. It's not... It kind of saves their creature. And we'd rather be able to hit the Stormwing entity, but they can Vapor Snag their own creature if you don't know how that interaction works. My guess is if we Smallpox here, they just Vapor Snag their own creature. So I don't see a point in doing so. We'll set it up so that if they want to cast their Stormwing entity next turn, they'll have to Vapor Snag their own Swift Spear to do so. That turns our Edicts back online, or at least makes them max effective, because as long as they're holding this card up, our Edicts just turn into discard a card and add a mana next turn. Okay, Expressive Iteration, hopefully that means their shields are down for a turn because they have this mountain in hand that we know about. So Fiery Islet. Their shields are still up with this Vapor Snag. So, okay, that's good. We have the Fatal Push. Now we have this opportunity here to... What we're going to do is we're going to hold up and threaten to block with the Construct. And what we'll probably do is just Fatal Push instead, because their game plan... So, Serum Visions, we know about the Stormwing entity. Hopefully, we know about the Mountain. I was going to say, if they manage to missequence their lands here and don't leave the blue up, that puts us in a situation where we could activate this and block if we wanted to. I don't think that's where we want to be, however. What they're trying to do, I think they're trying to bait us into casting or making a construct here so they can just Vapor Snag it. The question is if they Vapor Snag their own creature, which I think they're very likely to do here. Okay, they did not do that. I think they're maybe respecting the power level of this a lot. And we know they have a mountain in hand, so I'm not sure why they didn't play the mountain and hold up the blue to be able to Vapor Snag their Stormwing entity, should they need it. But it doesn't matter to me. It worked out perfectly fine. Unless they drew... Okay, so they wanted to play the tap land. That's even better. We're just going to tap this for a mana. Let's get a rack. The reason why we're doing that so that we can go ahead and just play the Liliana. Make them sack. Play the Mishra's Factory. And we're going to lose the Liliana next turn, but it'll come at the cost of them having to play the Swift Spear out and then having to Vapor Snag the Swift Spear to save it from our Smallpox, if that's what they want to do. Okay, I'm just going to F6. They know our only mana here is colorless. I just wanted to get that down instead of the Herborg last turn. Okay, so once again, the shields are down with Vapor Snag again. The question is if they're willing to let us uptick with Liliana for a turn, if they think that Vapor Snag is going to be a dead card. 2 cards on top of their library is a bit concerning. Okay, attacking the Liliana there is definitely the right play. Let's see what they're willing to discard here. So they held and discarded the mountain. What we're doing here is we're getting the last 2 cards out of their hand. And when we have the rack plus our Mishra's Factory here, we have a good chance of racing them. Even with the Stormwing Entity. Okay, so we got their Expressive Iteration. That was kind of their way to refill. So that's great. We don't know what's on top of their library. They topped twice, which could be an issue. Not having the extra 1 mana removal spells might come back to bite us in the butt. But weirdly, Dismember is better against this card than typically. We're just going to crime them again. Guessing maybe it's a bolt or something that they were planning on using on this Mutavault. Yeah. I think that they would have been better off bolting me last turn anyway, and that's... Maybe they're going for the highest upside play possible there. Because they know that they could just bolt my face at the end. But right now we are just barely winning the race. Another removal spell of some sort would be nice. That is the worst draw we could have drawn on the deck. We're dead to basically any spell anyway, even if we hold this back to block, right? And I think that we're better off if we attack now. That puts us having lethal the next turn if they don't draw a spell. Or if they don't draw a live spell here. Okay, Sprite Dragon still, yeah, we're still winning this race. Oh, that's an interesting attack. Smallpox wins us the game. A couple different cards win us the game here. Mishra's Factory here keeps us alive. Because now they have to block the factory with their Stormwing Entity. And puts us in another situation where if they top deck a spell, they win the game, but I mean, they were in that situation anyway. Okay, they win. Well, we played that correctly, I think. Like, they're at 1 life here. Even if had we left back a chump blocker, let's see if they draw into another spell too. Okay, well, oh no, if we hadn't have attacked there, they would have had the Stormwing Entity and we would have been dead anyway. So we made the right plays. We had to play to our outs, which is them bricking on a instant or sorcery there and hitting either a creature or land, which we had a pretty good chance of happening, but that happens. We are going to bring in the Regisaurs this matchup. They do a really good job dodging pretty much all of their removal. It lets us kind of race them on a different axis. We took out our 1 Blood Chief's Thirst. Let's go down to the Spell Bomb and Pithing Needle. So Urza Sagas are only getting racks right here. We don't really want to go down a land because we're in a racing situation. And we're not worried about flooding out late game so much. Let's go down 1 Smallpox just because it is a non-bow with our Regisaur. A lot of times I still take the draw in this matchup where we don't have the other 1 mana removal spells. I'm going to take the play though, because I think it's a bit more important to try to pick off a creature from their opening hand. We have a very, very damage-inducing hand to us. However, unlike against Burn, we can live with taking damage as long as they don't play any creatures. Okay, that's good. We can take Sprite Dragon number 1. Next turn, we'll take Sprite Dragon number 2, more than likely. There might be... Yeah, there's a spot right here where we don't take the Sprite Dragon. And I think this is it, and we just Fatal Push it when it comes into play. Because they'll almost definitely play it. We'd like to draw a land or two here. See, this is the reason why in these fast matchups that I like having the 24 lands. Because we almost always have plenty of action within the first 3 or 4 turns. And it's just as vital we hit a land drop every turn. Okay, so Manamorphose. That means they probably have Stormwing Entity right here, which lines up well with her Dismember. So yeah, let's go ahead and let them scry. Had I known about that when I thought seized earlier they didn't have it, I would have played out the Shrieking Affliction. I'm sure they're playing specifically around us having Fatal Push here is why they didn't play the Sprite Dragon out. So 1 bottom, 1 top. Yeah, this is the best our Dismember is going to look. Okay. If we don't attack with the factory, it makes it really obvious that we have Fatal Push here. I think we thought these. And we take the Sprite Dragon. We really want to hit our land here, because if we go land into Regisaur, we then discard a Raven's Crime, because it's not doing a whole lot here. They're already... That might be a card to consider boarding out for us, too, because really this matchup, it's not really about the quantity of cards, it's about taking specifically their creatures over and over again. We've handled 3... Okay, that's actually an okay situation, I think. We really, really, really want to land here. Because they have a bolt in hand. Okay, there we go. Boom. Let's hope they took out their Vapor Snags, because this is a little bit rougher against Vapor Snag. Yeah, they're drawing a card here. I'm not sure if they can beat this card in their current configuration. Double Bolt. We just go back to the Shrieking Affliction plan. We'll just discard our Raven's Crime. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Okay, what we're going to do is here, we're going to activate this Mishra's Factory and attack. That's going to incentivize them to play their Lightning Bolt. And we'll hold our land in hand so that on our upkeep we don't have to discard our Fatal Push. Okay, so if they double bolt the Regisaur here, that's pretty good. Okay, that's fine. He definitely did his job this game. Since we don't have a Raven's Crime in the graveyard now because of that Tormod's Crypt activation, we're going to play the Urborg just so we can hold up Fatal Push, so we can possibly be even more mana efficient on our following turns. Sprite Dragon, okay. Gonna push the dragon. Getting a double bolt there was nice. Okay, we are going to hold this one for a Raven's Crime, because it looks like their game plan is to hold cards in hand to keep from taking damage from the Shrieking Affliction. Do we know about any land or anything in their hand? Okay, they did fetch at one point. Yeah, that's their game plan right now. Okay, there we go. Raven's Crime's good. Yeah, with 4 of these in the deck, I think it was right to discard that one earlier. So discards Lava Dart. Lava Dart's something to keep in mind, though. That's one of those where I've considered putting in passive graveyard hate against them. So we know about a Manamorphose in hand is all we know for sure, right? Because they had 2 earlier. Okay, so they have something. Maybe it's a Bolt for the Mishra's Factory. I'm not sure. Or a second Lava Dart. Like, we can definitely live with them bolting a Mishra's Factory here. This does a really good job playing around them wanting to hold a spell to play the Stormwing entity too. Okay, they create a treasure token. I'm guessing that's to possibly go, like, be able to cast a hard cast a Stormwing entity. Okay, Rack is really good because I think they're dead no matter what right here. And this ended up working out pretty solidly. We might take the Rotting Regisaurs back out because if they have Vapor Snags, they almost definitely, if they took them out, they'll almost definitely bring them back in, and then they'll punish us to the 10th degree. And we're also going to be on the draw, so we're actually going to take these out for 2 Reckonings, and we're going to bring back the 4th Smallpox because on the draw, Smallpox is a bit better. That game looked pretty good. I'm happy with how that played out. The Dismember looked good. It's easy to forget. Most decks I've played this card in have been colorless type decks where this is 1 mana take 4, but it's nice to remember that it can just double as the what's that one newer spell, Ob Nixilis' Cruelty. It can kind of double as just playing that card. Well, some sort of glitch has caused this to, okay, it's going to be stuck on the screen, but we can keep this just because it has double Fatal Push. We can't ask for, this is the one matchup where part of the determination to bring these in was that we were dodging Prowess much more than we have before. That's the best possible turn 1 for us that they could have played. They almost definitely know we have a Fatal Push here, but we'll save it to see if they cast a Sprite Dragon because we want to prioritize killing that. Yeah, we're okay with making this trade. Okay, that's fine too. We might have wanted to take the 1 and wait till after combat. Okay, not having to take damage off these peatlands is nice. Let's go ahead and do this now, in case they have another Spell Pierce. We won't play into that. Now we're in a really good position next turn. We can either Liliana Edict, or we can Liliana Tick Up if they don't play anything. It looks like they're going to go Manamorphose, hopefully into a Stormwing entity with no mana open. That would be the ideal situation here. Them fetching there is interesting. That's probably just to guarantee their they don't have to ruin their scry or something with their fetch. That makes me think that they have another Spell Pierce here. But I don't know if we can play around that. Well, okay, so we'd much rather have the Smallpox Spell Pierce than the Liliana, and both do the job that we're trying to do anyway. I probably should have played out a Peatland there. I think they're pretty heavily representing a Spell Pierce. Maybe it's a Bolt. It might just be a bluff too. Okay, I think maybe that was just a bluff. If they're not Spell Piercing here, okay, they played Vapor Snag. I'm surprised that they didn't go ahead and return that to their hand with the Vapor Snag. That would have kept them from taking the damage from Shrieking Affliction. Maybe it's just because they know that they're losing that land that they're not casting that anytime soon. This card is one of the most sneakily good cards that have been printed in a while. Some of the Prowess community that I know has been down on it, but this is one that's seeing like staple Legacy Delver play just because it's so good. Every time I've seen it cast, it's been a 2-mana draw 2. Okay, so we can Liliana Edict here. We don't have to lose our crime. We've performed about as perfect this game as we could ask. So next turn, if they hold 2 cards in hand, we have Raven's Crime plus an Edict. Okay, Manamorphose is fine. Manamorphose into Stormwing is a little bit tougher, but we still race that pretty well. Because then, if after we tick up this Liliana, they're put in a spot where they have to choose between... Okay, I'm okay with that. Let's draw a card here. Oh, that was perfect. Nurturing Peatland looks better than Castle Lockwing right there, something to keep in mind. This is probably scoop lag, because that's pretty decisive right there. Yep. Well, we got game 1. Regisaur did a good job. That looked much, much better than a Sedgemoor Witch would have looked. Like I said, Prowess is a pretty good matchup for us. They can beat us in a best of 3, but we have enough cards that we interact with what they're doing fairly well. We did not see... We have access to 4 board wipes now. We didn't see any of those. I like that. If we can keep it this pace tonight, I'll be very happy. I've got a little bit of homework left over I need to get done. A quick tidbit on my life, since we have dead air right here. I'll have timestamps anyway that you can skip over these parts. But I'm currently working full-time. I work about 50 to 60 hours a week on average. I'm taking 16 credit hours of classes, too. So the reason why you don't see very well edited videos is because I have probably approximately 80 to 100 hours every week that I have dedicated as like things that I just have to do. That there's no shortcutting for me. So it's most of these videos you'll find for now are just going to be me recording a league and not doing much, if any, editing. I'll do my best to do like some quality of life improvements for you guys, like put timestamps in, things like that. Mostly this is just so you guys can see what some of the new cards look like and see what our deck looks like against what will probably be the Tier 1 and new Modern Horizon decks. We're going to take the draw on the blind again. I really like that they makes them reveal the companion before the game, because Luris tells me that Fatal Push is going to be better than it would be in most matchups. Okay, this card's pretty good right here. I don't know if we've talked about it any on the channel yet, but it's worth removing. After I remove it here, I'll hover on it for you to see. It's not one that people have been talking about very often, but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you surveil one. That's one of the bigger parts of the card. Has Delirium, it kind of becomes like a pseudo-delver. Okay, them not hitting a land is good. Us not hitting a land is not good. So the question is here, we have the option to Crime plus Rack, or we have the option to hold up a 2/2 blocker, because this doesn't get any bigger from their pump spells. I think we get a little bit more aggressive here, where we know that where they don't have any lands here, that their hand's just full of gas. Them discarding the Soulscar Mage is pretty good for us. Ideally here, they play like land, 1-drop, 1-drop. We draw into a land and we cast this Reckoning. Okay, so they're a weird version of this deck. They do have some sort of pump spells. That's not something I was expecting, because this card isn't a Prowess card. Looks like maybe that they're Boros Prowess, and they're trying to clean off their top for a land. But this card's little surveil thing that it does here is very good. So they definitely kept one that'll be a land on top to play it. Play another Soulscar Mage. That's fine. Okay. I actually think instead of this Reckoning, we Lily downtick. Because we erase one of these creatures pretty well. And the downside of Reckoning, us not being able to untap our lands when we have 2 more Lilianas that we can just keep downticking, upticking to deal with their remaining creatures and to possibly deal with Aluris if that becomes something. We want to make the most of every turn. The downside of this card is kind of that it's kind of a safety valve more than anything. And there's a chance that maybe if I'm running one main deck that it might be better as a Damnation. One more 1-drop would be perfectly fine here. So Bolt me. Okay. So these are turned on. So now is the situation that, well, we'll think about this. So I'm being attacked by the Chandler. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to uptick Lily on this empty board here. They're going to bolt me and not the Liliana. Okay. Let's see what they surveil here. So they put a card on top. We're going to discard this Liliana. Because these are turned on, we are going to do this. Because these cards with Delirium are much better. I'm not sure where they're... Okay, so Delirium's just 4 card types. For some reason, I think that there are 5 card types, but... let's uptick Liliana, see what they do. Boros Charm, deal 4 to me. That's okay. We're in a spot here where this Nurturing Peatland looks worse. So we have to decide if we want to play... they've dumped 2 Lightning Bolts here. But if they have cards like Boros Charm, I'm just not comfortable going to 3 life and giving them a chance to win with exactly 1 card. This gives us a way to Edict and to get rid of Aluris out of their hand, potentially. Maybe discarding just the draw land might be better. We'll uptick here, see if they do anything in response. So Lava Dart me, okay. We just have lethal. Well, we don't because they can draw a card at their upkeep. But that's fine. That still gives them exactly 1 turn to draw Bolt, which sucks a little bit, but they've played that well. For being on the draw against this aggro deck, we've done pretty well. This is another spot where, let's see, had I taken the 1 damage, we'll see. If they have like a Seal with Delirium, okay, this is important today. They might have Seal of Fire and things like that in their deck. Their hesitation here makes me think that they don't have anything. Okay, they don't have anything. I think we played that as optimally as we can, even though we know that there's only bolts. Knowing that they have Lava Dart could mean Lava Dart plus Seal of Fire. And usually you don't see Boros Charm in a deck like this. It's also important to keep in mind that if they have untapped mana, they could potentially give all their permanents indestructible. So be on the lookout for that. If they have a board full of creatures, we'll pay good attention to that. This is not just the matchup that I think our decks thrives in. I think this is the type of matchup that I personally am very familiar with and play well. It's hovering over every one of these cards now. I'm not sure. It's started doing that around that dismember earlier, and I can't get it to stop. It's like a delayed reaction. But I apologize for that. I'm not hitting anything on my keyboard to cause it. It's just doing it. Let's see here. Spellbomb's fine. We probably don't want a Pithing Needle. I can't imagine, right? Like, they probably have Mishra's Bauble, so maybe it's worth it to name Mishra's Bauble. God bless, man. That's starting to annoy me that it's doing that for every one of these, and it's not letting me, There we go. Yeah, I had to outrace it. Let's bring in the Regisaurs, where we're going to take the play. And they're not going to be expecting something for maybe like they're not going to be playing like Path to Exile out of their sideboard this game. If they see these this next game, they probably will be. Let's go on the same plan where we go down. Actually, let's go down Smallpox. We went down a Pithing Needle. We do want the Spellbomb to be able to turn off Delirium. We'll go down a Thoughtseize here, because Thoughtseize is our worst discard spell. Yeah, we know that they're going to choose to play first. Excuse me, I don't know why I was saying that we were going to be on the play. This is a fine hand against them if they're mulliganing. Because for the first couple turns here, we can just kind of whittle away their hand and play a threat that's going to be bigger than their threats. A Fatal Push here would be nice, because they... Okay. That's good. Let's see how all in they go on this card. We're just going to Fatal Push now in case they have a Boros Charm. I think this maximizes the amount that they're punished for sequencing like that. Because now they have a chance to use their mana, but unless they have a haste creature or two. Yeah, this is the Seal of Fire that I thought might be in their deck, so good looking out. This Regisaur looks good when they're on a mulligan, so hopefully we sneak this game away. That looks good. Our factory doesn't look great. Let's go double crime here. It's worth taking 1 damage, probably. That sets us up next turn, depending on what they have, that we could either dismember or we could just play the Reggie. I think our game plan next turn will be the take 1 damage off dismember and play the rack. I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I understand it. Okay. Okay, this next turn we're probably playing Regisaur, but only if we have a card that's worth discarding here. Okay, we do have a card worth discarding in Inquisition, so... I like this sideboard card against these Lightning Bolt decks. I think it's time to kind of maybe return to this card. Keeping in mind they do have 2 damage on the battlefield. But if we trade 3 cards for 1 here, yeah, that's what I think that's the right play on their part. We'll get rid of this card. See what we draw. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, they had a couple different plans here. I think we're racing pretty well here. Let's see if we attack them for 7, what they do. Next turn, we can cast the Dismember in response to the discard if we want. But they're in a spot now where they would have to string together like a couple Manamorphoses to do anything. And we have the ability to cast this Dismember if it becomes a major problem for us. So 2, 4, 6. There's 6 damage on the battlefield right here essentially because of these. They have to leave 1 Swift Spear back to block. And we can just dismember it and we win, right? Yeah, that's what we do. So we dismember the Swift Spear on our turn so we don't take any damage. So in response to this trigger, we dismember their Swift Spear. Yeah, that looked good again. Once again, Regisaur out of the sideboard. That's the he's the one carrying us right here. I like this little sideboard switch plan we've got going. And like I said too, this sort of matchup is the one where I like playing a lot. Personally, I love going up against these low to the ground chippy decks. Our deck is not only designed to play against these types of decks, but like I said, I have the most experience both playing with those type of decks and against those type of decks, so I know the type of sequencing and what to expect. They mulliganed literally instantly. I think that puts them most likely on some sort of Tron variant. Could be just some like Neoform deck or something, but this is a good hand against Tron because they have Pithing Needle. So if they turn on Expedition Map after a mull to 5 here, we can just go land Pithing Needle on Expedition Map. Okay. We don't know what they're doing for sure yet, so if we cast this Pithing Needle, they're just going to crack the Wooded Foothills in response, and we don't know what else we would name with it besides Wooded Foothills. Let's just start whittling away their hand here. Okay, so that gives away that they are Amulet Titan. The Sanctuary there does. Pithing Needle targets for Amulet Titan. Probably Elvish Reclaimer. Okay, we are going to Smallpox right here. And the reason that let's make sure, but we are most likely going to Smallpox right here. Either that or we double discard. Smallpox Stone Rains them twice. So let's just do that. It's rare that we get to do this against them. Let's get rid of this. Okay. I figured that they would just scoop to that. Good, good. Let's bring in Surgical to try to get one of their Primeval Titans. Probably take out the Spell Bomb. Let's break the ice, do anything against them. No, this is... So let's note every time... Because the one time we actually cast the card, it looked good. Let's note every time that we should have been able to bring a Damping Sphere in, but couldn't. And this is one of them that this almost definitely does nothing against their decks. It would be fine if we knew for sure they were on the Urza Saga version. We don't know that for sure. So let's do that. The Fatal Pushes are kind of bad, but we don't know for sure which version they're on. So if they're on the Reclaimer version, they're better. But let's go down 2 Fatal Pushes, and we'll go up 1 Reckoning. There's a world maybe where we bring the Regisaur in, but on the draw, I don't think that's... This is kind of our on-the-play card, or against decks that we know aren't going to have any removal that we want to race, or at least not going to have efficient removal. This is a good hand. The Dismember I kept in notably for Dryad Arbor. Being able to get like an Amulet or something out of their hand right here would be nice. Let's lead on the Urborg in case we want to play the Mishra's Factory next turn. Huh. Okay. Well, you got us, opponent. Double Urza Saga. Okay. With nothing else. They have the Teleria West, but the question here is if we smallpox or not. This is a situation where I think we specifically don't want to pox, and we're going to play this to be more mana efficient, and we're going to just because we want to be able to start ticking this Liliana up. That mode on that's not particularly great right now. Like, it's okay. The Yavi Maya, we did not know about the Yavi Maya, so that means we have perfect knowledge of their hand still. So this card's bad. Something else to note, they can attack our Liliana here, but unless they have a pretty good rip off the top in another artifact land, that they do lose that Urza Saga. I'm guessing what their plan is to make a threat, then bounce it with the Selesnya Sanctuary. Actually, maybe not. That might not be their plan because it can't be their plan, right? Because they don't have an instant speed way to react to that. That does get them an amulet. It's actually fine. So what we're probably going to do here is down tick Liliana. I guess we can't down tick Liliana. We might just, where they're down a land now, let's dismember and then smallpox. And then we'll consider well, the smallpox got way worse right there. Like, way, way worse. Okay, so we know that there's another Urza Saga in hand, don't we? No? No, we don't. They only had two. Let's uptick, see what they do. Let's get rid of our smallpox right here. And the reason for that is on their turn, we can block a Mishra's Factory on one of their constructs. They could make a construct that we could activate the Mishra's Factory and kill one while we chump block the other. Okay. I'm not sure why they... Okay. That's fine. Let's see where these go. So Liliana's being attacked by both of them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to dismember this one. We can do the little trick where we didn't play this turn, right? Okay, yeah, we didn't. I didn't think we did, but... this turns off that as a lethal threat to Liliana anytime soon. Okay. Let's downtick this Liliana. Let's just downtick this Liliana again. We don't turn on the Shrieking Affliction playing this way. But we have a way to protect against everything except specifically Amulet Titan, or specifically the Titan next turn. And they've played their Teleria West, and they discarded their Sanctuary. I think they can get a Hasty Titan this turn, actually. Okay, because they have the double Amulet of Vigor. Yeah, we knew about this Growth Chamber, and it has the ability to bounce that Teleria West. And we're dead. Um, for those of you who don't know how this works, well, let's see. They don't have a way to give their creature double strike, so let's play it out. They can deal a lot to us next turn, but they discarded their one way to kill us this turn. Summoner's Pack is fine. I'm curious if they still have the way to give it haste. I am curious if they'll decide to attack the Liliana or attack us. I imagine they probably attack us. Us losing that smallpox is kind of rough. Okay, they'll do that. They'll probably get some sort of edict protection here too. Their deck that they specifically want, we want Thoughtseize against. Okay, so we knew that's coming. That unless there's like another way to pump him in their deck that I don't know about, then this is fine. Because it means we don't die to a second Titan hit because we have the factory. I'm going to look at the film on this game specifically because I feel like maybe that there was a point where... oh, no, never mind, because it didn't matter if they did. This Teleria West was sitting on the battlefield the entire time. So that it wasn't even in hand. So I was going to say if we had like upticked a Liliana and just ate a Liliana right there, maybe we'd been better off. So notably, it looks like they're running the full 4 Urza Saga. Which I'm going to make a video on this sometime this week, kind of warning you all that that card might get banned. I would wait to pick it up in paper. Okay, does our Urza Saga do anything here? No, right? There's nothing we can do. Let's Surgical Extraction and look through their deck before we concede here. So they brought in Force of Vigors. They have only one Azusa now. They do have all 4 of the packs. They have a Singleton Veil of Summer, a Singleton Expedition map to get off this, a Crumbling Vestige, 1 of each of the fetch lands to trigger multiple Dryads. Looks like they do have all 4 Dryads. Okay. And yeah, that gives us the information we need for game 2 here. Or game 3, I should say. We're going to be on the play. The Fatal Pushes look a little bit better, and the Pithing Needles, let's bring in a Pithing Needle back in. Well, I guess we didn't take the Pithing Needle out, did we? We won't want to. But notably, this turns off our Urza Saga as well, but we're probably more concerned about theirs than ours. The Fatal Pushes do deal with their construct creatures, but I think we want to go call it like over the top of them, or because they're going to be able to get underneath us if that's our game plan. Is okay? They could turn 1 Amulet and Urza Saga and things like that. Let's take the play. Usually I take the draw in this matchup. I think taking the play is the right answer because as you look right here, had this been a Thoughtseize, this would be good on the draw. On the play, it's kind of important that we have this right here. So, Dryad, Summoner's Pact. Let's just take the Pact. And then next turn we can take the Dryad, but... It's not like they were going to play it anyway, but we have the option now. Play our own Urza Saga. Now we take the Dryad. Okay, notably they have a Teleria West, so if we draw into a Surgical, we'll want to Surgical that Summoner's Pact. Maybe with like the trigger on the stack or something. We really, really, really need a third land. This is why like I really emphasized that 24 lands is actually pretty important for us. Wonder what the likelihood is there. Okay, I thought maybe they would bounce their Saga, but I don't know exactly what their deck wants to be doing. Okay, that sucks that we can't activate that, but we're gonna Thoughtseize. Oh God, I'm an idiot. I was thinking they had the Summoners Pack in hand from a second ago. That was a flub on my part because I said to keep in mind to Surgical that specifically. Okay, we're getting Pithing Needle Naming Saga here pretty soundly, I think. They can't respond to that. Yeah, they can't even make the construct tokens here, so we're in a pretty good spot. I'm gonna pitch the Inquisition because they have a pretty easy ability to just play around our hand disruption for now. Them not being able to make the constructs here is very, very good. We really need to keep them off blue mana, so no Dryad is priority 1. Because we don't want them to be able to transmute that Teleria West that we know is in hand. We'll play our own Urza Saga, which is a little bit better than theirs. Okay. This is the spot where we're wondering... I don't think they can kill this Lily easy, so I think it's fine to discard our own Liliana. And I think we're going to have to like try to race with, specifically with our rack that we get off this. Stopping the Urza Saga there is good. So they have one Teleria West left in hand. It turns off our Urza Saga, but I mean, I don't care about that. We'll wait to see what they play here. So Expedition map. Are they going to get Breeding Pool probably? Or like a they're going to get a blue source, we know that. But Breeding Pool, play it tapped, lets them get double blue. Okay, Castle Garenbrig. It feels like that they're planning on... Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, we can't deal with that anyway. Let's go pitch here. They discarded their Summoner's Pact. Let's just take the 2. And we're going to get the Dryad here. So Primeval Titan in hand, yep. which we figured. Because we have to discard this surgical extraction anyway. I need to. So Amulet Titan's a really complicated deck, and I'm sitting here like really grinding and thinking hard about this. And I apologize that I'm doing that and not explaining the lines here. I knew the way that they played discarding the Summoner's Pact, that more than likely what they had was a Primeval Titan in hand. Because that's the only way that they would ever discard a Summoner's Pact, right? We're not getting anything but a rack right here anyway, but let's just uptick, and then next turn we're going to Ultimate Lily, and we'll put like Selesnya Sanctuary. We'll split up their permanents. They're kind of in a territory where they don't have a lot of outs. We're going to crime them to get as much information as we can here. Okay, they're down a Summoner's Pact again. And now we go... Yeah, they have to take this pile, and we take an Amulet of Vigor, we take their best land. So that's pretty good. That puts them pretty far away from Titan. And it puts them off being able to cast an Azusa this turn. So we'll play this. Now we have another... Well, it's actually not a clock. Okay, we're getting rid of the Primeval Titan. That was the right play on our part. This is exciting because I feel like this is one of the better games that I have personally played on camera, because this is a hard deck both to play and play against. Just keep playing our lands here. There's okay, we got rid of another Primeval Titan. That's 3 out of 4 of them. I don't think that they can win in this spot. Like it'll be tough. Since they just played their land, let's make them sack their Grazer here. We didn't see a Dryad Arbor earlier when we Surgical Extraction. We'll speed up the clock 1 turn by attacking them with this Mishra's Factory, by doing it like that. And now we kill them basically no matter what right here. Awesome, awesome, awesome! 3-0. Taking down Amulet Titan. Sorry that I got to the point where I was kind of rushing through and thinking in my head instead of out loud. That's a hard deck to sequence against. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. 3-0. Looking pretty good. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're going to join back up in the queue. I should have went ahead and queued up right there. Like I said, I'll leave timestamps in the description. This has been a fun league so far. We've got our money back, and that's the part that matters the most. But we'll keep grinding. We've beat this version of Prowess here. I saw people talking just the other day, claiming that that was going to be like the new, better than Izzet Prowess version. So we beat that deck. We beat the, for 6 months, best deck in the format, Izzet Prowess. Best or second best deck, depending on what you're saying. And what I think is actually the most powerful deck in the format, which is Amulet Titan. I think it's just very difficult to play, so people shy away from it more. I think the percentage of players who play Modern and play Amulet Titan is really low, but the win percentage that the guys have that play Amulet Titan is crazy high. Well, Luris deck, we're going to keep this because we have a way to interact with them. We are going to Inquisition here. The person who plays a little bit too much Legacy in me wanted to immediately dismember that Delver, but let's take Counterspell here. But it's less threatening in Modern than Legacy. There's not free spells to back it up. There is, but there's not many. So we know that they don't have another instant or sorcery in hand. A Sprite Dragon would be a good rip off the top for them. Okay, it's not that. I like Serum Visions with Delver a lot better than I like some of the other cantrips. Because this is one of the few cards in Modern that lets you set up the top of your library pretty well. So what they'll want to do, so one card on the bottom, one card on top. So they're going to flip their Delver next turn. We won't have a third card in the graveyard. Let's Thoughtseize, actually. That lets us get the Drown in the lock, so we don't have to worry about any shenanigans. And they'll reveal the top card of their library here. Oh, they did not reveal the top card of their library. Okay. Another Delver. That's fine. So, 1 damage, 2 damage. Okay, we're going to dismember this Delver now. Or are we? We're going to be showing them that we have the Shrieking Affliction, so let's dismember this now. They're heavily incentivized to bolt us. I hate the way that Dismember or all Phyrexian mana works on here. Raven's Crime would be nice. Anything to force that bolt out of their hand. A bunch of lands is not very nice, but specifically a bunch of swamps is a little bit rougher. There's maybe a part of me that wants to keep the Dismember until they play the Luris or bring the Luris to hand. But just knowing, A, they don't really have untapped mana. Let's see if they bolt me. That would be like a fundamental misunderstanding of what this card does if they bolt me, right? Like they're so cheap on mana, I'm sure that like or mana cost spells, yeah. I feel like it'd be wrong to bolt me. Let's see what they reveal here off the top. No reveal again. This is why Delver is so much worse in Modern than it is Legacy. I don't think I've ever... I can count like on one hand how many times like a Delver hasn't been flipped by like turn 2 in Legacy. And this specifically happens so often. We just need... Even a Raven's Crime is good right here. Just anything... Mishra's Factory is okay even. Anything besides Urborg or Basic Swamp we're down with. Like Liliana of the Veil plays, Urza Saga plays. Confused if they're thinking, maybe they're thinking about holding lands in hand. Or probably debating whether or not to just go ahead and put the Luris in hand, I would say. Because they've seen Inquisition, they've seen Thoughtseize. Okay, another Delver. And then put the Luris to hand, I'm guessing? Yeah. If we can get that Luris out of hand this turn... Well, I said the Factory's not that bad. The Factory's pretty bad here. Like, we really wanted specifically Raven's Crime or a way to get out the Inquisition. Because if they for somehow flip these Delvers, fine. Okay, that's just lethal. They can double bolt me. We know that there's a lightning bolt in their hand, and they revealed another one off the top, so that's 12. So that sucked. We've just flooded. That's what happens sometimes when you run this many lands, but I still feel like it's the right number. The question is if we run Regisaur or not, because I don't think that they're going to be expecting creatures from us. I think we do. It plays a lot clunkier into counter magic, but I don't know. This feels okay. I think they probably have Sprite Dragon, because that's the Grixis Delver lists are usually like the Aspiring Spike lists, and I can't imagine not running Delver. We're going to keep the Spell Bomb in case they're trying some like Delve shenanigans or Snapcaster or Delirium. We're probably going to take the Pithing Needle out. I didn't see anything that makes me think that Pithing Needle is worth it. There's a debate maybe that there's one in there. We know the game's going to go longer, so this is the game where we do go down the 2 lands. The first one today, I think, that we've actually gone down any lands, but no, we're not going to take the... This is tough because their deck's almost... Like, I don't want to say their deck's not a real deck, because obviously it's a real deck. It might beat the crap out of us right here, but it's not a deck... It's a tempo deck. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm saying it's not really an aggro deck, but they have these hands that are hyper aggressive, and then they have these hands that like dirtle and do nothing for a long time. Let's talk about this hand. It's kind of bad. We don't have a Pithing Needle to get with that, and we don't want another rag. I'm just going to mulligan it. This hand's a little bit better. Let's go down one of the Thought Seizes. I feel like Inquisition's a good card in the matchup. The biggest difference in their deck is if they flip Delver on turn 1 or not. Okay. Serum Visions. Well, if they blind flip this Delver, that's pretty good. Let's see if they do. Okay, nope, no blind flips Delver. So Bobble, we know the full contents of their hand is a bunch of lands now. Now they're going to have the option to decide whether or not they want to scry the Bobble, the card they check with the Bobble on top or not. This tells me right here that they're running the Delirium 1-drop. At least I strongly believe that they are. Them not fetching here tells me also that they're probably getting ready to flip this Delver. I would have probably waited until my turn to have done that, because now I'm going to Inquisition them and see if they drew anything here. Okay, well, never mind, because they just... I don't know why they didn't do all that on my turn, right? Okay, so Snapcaster Mage with no value, gotcha. That's almost as good as them just discarding a card anyway. I guess we're Raven's Criming here. We're going to hold this Thoughtseize for if they put Lurrus to hand. Really, like, this game kind of all depends on how quickly they flip the Delver. And this is just why I don't think this is a good card in Modern. Is that Delver isn't good because Delver itself is good. Delver is good because blue cantrips are so good. And if you don't have a way to manipulate that... Okay, so Lurrus is at hand. That's what we saved the Thoughtseize for. We'll crime them once here to see if they like give us a value discard. Okay. Now we Thoughtseize. I was hoping maybe that they would like discard a creature there. But we're racing. It's just going to come down to, once again, like, the Delvers will flip eventually. It's a matter of how fast they flip. And because we are losing the race steadily. But we lose the race outright if they flip the Delvers. Okay, now we have a way to just start blocking too. So as long as these don't flip, we're good. So don't flip, don't flip, don't flip. Land, land, land. Show me land. Come on. Yeah! Keep these Delvers down. Show us why we don't play this card in Modern. Don't think they know how Factory works here. Yeah, they just don't know how Factory works. That's okay. We're going to show them why we play Factory over Mutavault. And that's why. So another Serum Visions. We're still not in a great spot right here. Like, we kind of need... if they scry anything top, they're flipping the Delvers this turn. Yeah, so 2 cards on top. That tells me Delvers are getting flipped. Can we even win this game from this spot? God. This kind of sucks because we just didn't draw into any removal. They're killing us with 1/1s. And we had a bunch of dead cards in hand against their cards dealing 1/2 damage. So their Delvers are flipping. We know that the Delvers are flipping. It's just a matter of, like, this card kills us if we cast it. Well, this sucks. We were on our way to a 5-0, I think. When we play against meta decks, we win. When we play against decks that, like, we aren't prepared for in the sideboard, because we can't really prepare for them in the sideboard. Okay, that's Expressive Iteration's a beating. I don't think there's any way we win this game, right? Like, so Bantu's Last Reckoning is it. That's our 1 out right here. And I think there's only 1 in the deck right now, because when they're running 1-ofs a bunch of cards, I'm guessing they probably just have Bolt, but or a Fatal Push or something. Or just a Braid. Yeah. Well, that doesn't kill us. Yeah, it does, because... Yep. Yep. Well, that sucks. And there was the... Oh my god. Never hit the draw card button, because that was the I win the game card right on the top of the deck. I never did anything at any point to take less damage than I had needed to or anything. We should have died to these a lot quicker than we did, but we didn't, and then they flipped finally. And that's all we can do about it. Oh well. So 3-1 so far. I don't even want to say that, like, I thought that those matchups were good matchups, the Delvery type decks, but the past 3 times I've played against them, they're kind of like Prowess, but better against us, opposed to like how Death Shadow is Prowess but worse against us. Because Expressive Iteration specifically is very, very good. Snapcaster Mage is pretty good. Delvers are, as long as the Delvers are flipped, they're very good. As you saw that game, that I don't know. I with Lava Darts running around, I could never cast the Delver of Secrets, I don't think, but it looked good. The Delirium, the 3-drop one, that whole game would have looked a lot better than that Delver. So that's something to keep in mind. Is that maybe I'm sure that they were running it in their deck because they were running the baubles, but something to keep in mind if you like Delver a lot. 6 lands, 1 spell, even with Urza Saga. It's probably not good enough. Yeah, it's not good enough. We can keep that. We'll send back a Thoughtseize. The reason being is that if the Fatal Push or the Thoughtseize 1 are cards that we don't want, we can hypothetically discard either one to the Liliana. This makes me think it's some kind of Gift Storm if they don't have a turn 1 play, but it could just be a Sprite Dragon Prowess deck. Scavenging Boots. I've played against this guy before. I can't remember. Can't remember what type of decks he's played. I've talked to him actually quite a bit. Okay, so Force, Bone Crusher Giant. Oh, dude, that's just 1 Force and a Brazen Borrower. We just take the good card. Which okay, so that looks like a bad card. That represents 2 Rhinos from our opponent. This is one of the decks I've not played against on camera yet. But they have a pretty good matchup against us. And they are one of the reasons why that there are 4 Bantu's Last Reckoning in the sideboard now. So this is a tough spot. If we activate this and attack, it just gets Bone Crusher Gianted. You just get stomped. If we play Liliana Uptick, they just cast the Brazen Borrower and attack it, or they bounce it. Or actually, they probably Force of Negation it, actually. So let's... They're going to stomp this, almost definitely. But we have plenty of lands in hand. Yep. We knew that was coming. That's okay. We just want to kind of get rid of some of the cards in their hand. Maybe there's a spot where we wait. Because now they can Force of Negation. Holding up... okay, that's better. So we can go to their upkeep right here. So we don't play into their Force of Negation. And then... I forget that Urborg, for whatever reason now, is backwards than it used to be, and it's the last one. We can draw the card, and then we can Fatal Push the Bone Crusher. That's another reason to run the Peatlands in the deck over the... Okay, that's fine. And now we can Liliana downtick. I really like playing our deck right here because this line of like making them a stomp with the... oh, well, they just had the second Force of Negation, and that's fine. Okay, well, what did they exile with? So Fire Ice, so they still have a threat too. That's the second Force of Negation there went from like... We knew about one of them. I don't think we can beat the second one now. I kind of hate that this card is in Modern, but... You'd think that we would like it just fine. This is good because we can choose to sacrifice like our land here if they don't have a counter spell, or even if they do. Okay. We now have the Revolt on the Fatal Push triggered. Because I imagine they probably slightly prefer to have the Flyer in Brazen Borrower. I wonder, they know that we know the contents of their hand, right? All right, we have to Fatal Push now. All right, so they can't draw into one of these cascade spells, and they play like 8 of them, so they probably drew into one. Well, what do you got, opponent? What a shrieking affliction. We're going to save that in case we need a Raven's Crime. Okay, so they didn't. Are they holding lands, maybe? Because the Smallpox kind of tells them what we're doing. Okay, Raven's Crime's good. I'm going to go ahead and crime them now. I don't know why they wouldn't just go ahead and suspend that. Suspend that crashing footfalls, but even with a 4-1, I'm going to play the factory here. The reason being, they still take the 3 damage from the Shrieking Affliction, and we can attack with the factory. That forces them to cast some cards action-wise. So now this factory we discard. Or, yeah, we do. The worst outcome here is them violent outbursting into crashing footfalls. So we have to leave this back to block, just to respect the fact that they could just have an instant speed. Okay. Well, I wasn't too worried about that. That makes me think that maybe there's a Bloodbraid Elf. This is not a continuous artifact, but this still goes off if it's tapped versus untapped. Inquisition here lets us know what we're working with. I figured that was the case. So they don't have a bolt or anything in hand. They have that. If they don't draw a bolt, we can block and survive 1 turn. But we have to make them discard a card somehow. I guess they wouldn't have a bolt anyway, but in case they had like Fire Ice or something, we have to have like exactly just a land would be perfect. Ah, Rack's like the 1 card we lose the game to. We have like 30 discard spells in our deck. Oh, what a fucking tilt. Shit. Like the 1 card in our deck. It's the best card in their deck. It's the card the deck's named after. Land wins us the game. Liliana wins us the game. Thoughtseize probably wins us the game. Inquisition, well, Thoughtseize doesn't, but Inquisition wins the game probably. Ugh. What a tilt. that just upsets me. Let's see, Liliana's kind of bad at this matchup. These are okay. These are not great. Let's go down all the smallpoxes, and we're going to bring in Reggie and all the reckonings. And that's a bit of a non-bow, but the reason why we have 4 reckonings in the sideboard is because of this deck right here that we're playing against. And God, I hate this deck too. And not even because it's like particularly good or anything. It's just, well, they For some reason, our main decking Leyline of Sanctity. That's okay, I guess. If I'd have known they had that in the sideboard, we would have taken the draw. Excuse me, sideboarding the ley lines, but I don't particularly like the ley line sideboard plan. We kind of sideboarded around it pretty well too, except for the Thoughtseize isn't looking very good. We should have taken the Nile Spellbomb out here. We still have the option to get a Pithing Needle. But we're probably going to be on the beatdown plan with Urza Saga. That appears to be what we're doing. Footfalls gives them a way to race here. But we're not going to just run a Liliana here out into like a Force of Negation or something when we could just make some value. Okay. That makes me think they just kept a hand that was bad because they, once again, guys, this card doesn't beat us on its own. It beats us, not on its own. Like you have to have something else in your arsenal. Makes me think that they probably have Bone Crusher Giant there. This card's not exceptionally good against them either because both of their I know they had a stomp, but um hmm. So I don't know if the rack actually does anything here. We could just Pithing Needle their Wooded Foothills. Let's do that because they can't respond to it. That way they can't double spell this turn if they want to do that. And now we have a way, maybe hypothetically, to protect the construct token here. Okay. We get another opportunity to see more of their deck. I know what this deck does, but just for you guys to see. They do have a Jace the Mind Sculptor here, so taking that Wooded Foothills to name, like that's kind of a little bit of a spicy, somewhat one of. Okay, let's Liliana make you sack. All right, I can't do that. Never mind. That's a mistake to play that card. No, it's not. That's still the right play because I got to get rid of these crappy hand disruption spells out of my hand anyway. I should have probably got the rack right there had I known that there was like any potential that we were going to see a Jace. Letting you know what my thoughts right here are. If they blind attack into this construct, I'm not going to do much with this dismember here. Okay, Jace, they're going to block my construct. Or they're going to bounce it, I mean. If they only attack Liliana with one of the rhinos, we'll dismember it. Okay, I guess we're going to dismember the one that's attacking the Liliana. Oh my god. I hate casting Dismember on here. Because you have to pay the life first. And I don't see why it matters what order you do it in. It's probably just specifically. They have to choose one of them, so why not, I guess. But Urza Saga is pretty good here. Oh, they're taking the full 3 off the rack. What we got to try to do here is try to make our Planeswalker beat their Planeswalker. And they're smart enough to know that how they win here is killing this Liliana and protecting their Jace. There's no point in just chumping for one turn, I don't think. Oh, he's fate sealing me. Oh, so whatever it was good. Okay. Let's just uptick. And we're going to try to start coming after their life total here. I'm holding this Raven's Crime so that they can't just hold cards underneath this Jace against me. We are definitely going to lose this Liliana. Let's see how bad they want it dead, though. Okay, they're attacking us with both things. And that's fine. We're not going to give them an opportunity to bounce our creature with Jace by like trying to block or like do anything tricky. We're just going to make two of these things. If they have a borrower, so be it. We'll see what our draw is first. Do we have another Pithing Needle? No. Well, we got a rack. And there's a reason why our deck is named after it. Oh, I forget we can't do that, can we? Shit. Okay. Well, awkward moment there. Let's just attack them. Fuck it. We're not beating this. We're not attacking this card and killing it. Like, that's not happening, so. Bouncing here. Okay. Stomp's fine. They still take a lot of damage off our racks here for a turn. Liliana's kind of our main way to win this game from that spot. Yep. I don't know why they don't just get in for 8 right there, but... Or I don't know why they don't cast their Bone Crusher there either. Just going to attack them again. We'll see if they take 4. We'll just kill the Rhino. Well, our only way out here... that Leyline of Sanctity was so irrelevant for so long, I forgot they had it with the Raven's Crime. It's been a long night, though. I don't get why you don't cast the second Bone Crusher there. They must know that we had the. They must have bottomed a board wipe, is what I'm guessing they bottomed there. Smallpox, that wins us the game, right? That's it. Yeah, Shrieking Affliction does not do it. They're going to keep upticking this Jace, and we're going to lose to this Jace. This is kind of like... I've never seen this card in this deck. So I don't know if this is a sideboard card, if that's the new tech, or if it's like a spicy one-of, but... The Pithing Needle naming that would have won us the game. But they didn't show us anything at any point that made me think that there was a Jace. It's also after midnight, and this is like hour 18, 19 of me being up doing stuff today, so. Well, it'd be sweet right here if they had a Crashing Footfalls too. Well, I guess I keep wanting to think Crashing Footfalls gives them haste, but it doesn't. Is there any way we win the game? Like, there's not, right? We can kill one of these. And then we scoop. Yep, that might be by bad. I'll check the tape. I'll post the league just to give you guys some content. But yeah, that's our hardest matchup. But thank you all for watching. I'll post it up today. Probably not going to advertise it anywhere, but for you guys who are subscribed and just really want some of this content, here you go. And thank y'all. I appreciate it. And keep racking.